All right, we are on chapter 3, and we're going to get right into it. After the meal was finished, we arose from the table, our hostess leading us into the garden. To our great surprise, we found Jesus, Emil, Jast, and Budra seated. We joined the group and sat down. We could sense the inaudible sigh of relief and realized how much we had grown to rely upon these people. It was as though we had fastened ourselves to them with bands of steel. Somehow I saw that this we must not do. It was necessary for us to play our definite part in this great scheme of life, in order that we might not become mere puppets. We must stand wholly upon our own feet and rely wholly upon ourselves, or they would be obliged to sever the bands entirely. Our chief talked freely upon this subject later. The evening was still young, and the soft glow of the fading sunset colors suffused everything with a luxuriance and beauty that one must see to appreciate, to be appreciated. There was not a breath of air stirring, not even a sound to disturb the tranquility that seemed to engulf us. The bandit situation that we believed had weighed so heavily upon us, but a moment before had disappeared entirely. It was calm and peaceful. There was that beautiful feeling of complete relaxation, which again must be experienced to be understood. It was that beautiful feeling of complete relaxation, which again must be experienced to be, which again must be experienced to be understood. It seems like it was definitely written twice. It was as though we were in a great stream of slowly moving light. We became suddenly aware that we heard the voice of Jesus, but not in words. My only explanation is that it was a pure rhythmic, flowing, vibratory influence that came to us in thought instead of words. The effect was much more pronounced than that of words. The rhythm and cadence were beyond description. Thoughts seemed to flood and lodge. This was an entirely new experience. That is interesting. The esoteric meanings of this, or where this comes from. I'm assuming we're talking, it's coming from the, I don't know, it's coming from above down, that's for sure, put it that way. As these thoughts or ideas came, we translated them into stenographic characters, then transposed them into words and sentences, later submitting them to these people for approval. When I say, behold, the Christ of God is here, I behold the God-man standing forth. I see this, my body, as the true temple of God, the perfect instrument or channel through which the great creative principle flows and comes forth freely. Then this creation is unadulterated in image, form, and likeness. I am God. In this attitude, I stand forth the master of every situation, the Christ of God triumphant. It is this ideal that I worship, and that which I worship I bring forth. I can in no way bring forth God if I does not present God to all humanity. In this attitude, man stands forth the master of every situation. Christ is triumphant, conquering. God and man are walking hand in hand, one. There is but one principle, one man. One of our party thought for a moment and then asked, how can we bring forth this light and make practical use of it? The answer came, let your body become a generator through which this great creative radiating principle flows. See this principle as the emanation of all power. Know that it is the principle of all power. Then, like an electric generator, your body will collect and magnify this energy until you send it out as a stream of pure white light that nothing can resist, and anything directed toward you cannot harm you. You can also send such intense impulses of electrical energy over these light beams that the body of the one attempting to harm you will be destroyed. Any resistance to this energy immediately magnifies its volume and therefore its velocity. The ones setting up resistance against it or attempting to set up their personal will only harm themselves. If they do not set up any resistance to this light, it will pour its healing balm through them as well as it does through you. It is the pure God beam and power which blends with that of another at all times, and there is no resistance to its free flow. It vibrates with the highest vibration. Consequently, all are vibrating in perfect harmony and accord, and no harm can possibly come to them as they are in unison with the God vibration. There is absolutely nothing that can harm another unless that one resists to God vibration. Vibration is life. Now we're talking about much, at the top of this chart here, right? Do not see how you stand one with God at all times. In this attitude, there would be a possibility. In this attitude, would there be a possibility of separation? The only separation is the resistance that causes the inharmony. Nothing can come near you when you stand in the holy mount, one with God. This is not a special privilege for a few. This is for all. I am the great absolute, cause or source, in which every child stands one with God. Thus all live under the law, the highest vibratory thought action. There is not an inharmonious vibration that can enter this sphere, this throne where all belong and are at home. This is your divine kingdom. You can also use this power to return false and harmful thoughts or desires that are directed towards you. You can, if you so desire, step up this white godlight beam, endow it with God power, magnify and transform the energy the sender has given the thing or condition that was intended for you, then place it into your reflector and send it back to the sender with the velocity of light. When you return it in this way, it is a beam of pure white light instead of merely lower vibrations as it was sent out to you. When it reaches the sender, the impulses are so potent that it can destroy the body of the one who first put in motion the lower vibration. It matters not whether you know the sender or the location from which it came, the vibration will return to its source unerringly. The judgment or day of retribution has arrived. As you give, so you receive good measure, God measure, pressed down and running over. You can transform God power and send it out with such force that it is irresistible. These are the beams or rays of light that you see emanating from my body. These rays are emanating from your body, although they are not yet as potent. But as you go on and use this power, allied with law and principle, you will add potency to the light and can consciously direct it to accomplish any good desire. When the artist portrayed me at Gethsemane, the rays of light went out from my body instead of coming out from heaven to me. The light is the God power generated from within my body and sent out by the reflector. These beams go out from every body when that person stands forth as God in his divine heritage, the Christ of God, all one. This is and can be made the definite motto of all humanity. Can there be discord between brothers if they become this all-absorbing one? Now step up this white beam, which is the God beam upon which you send out God power. Endow it with God power transformed 10,000 or 10 million times greater than that which has been sent out to you and which you are returning. All right, let's see this step. Now step up this white beam, which is the God beam upon which you send out God power. Endow it with God power transformed 10,000 or 10 million times greater than that which has been sent out to you, which you are returning. This is as you decree. Then let it flow back upon the same path that the vibrations of the thing travel to you. When the person receives this ray and accepts it as coming from God, the attempted harm is all erased, forgiven, forgotten, and no harm can come to you or the sender of that harmful thought. You are both eye to eye, one with God. Instead of in harmony, there's perfect harmony. You are again one. If the sender of the harmful thought does not accept the white ray which you have sent out in all its potency, his body will be destroyed. This pure white ray will completely erase every vibration of harm or discord if allowed to complete its perfect work. If resisted, there is nothing but a perfect eraser for the one who holds determinedly to the resistance. His resistance draws to him the whole creative principle. Adversely, as to the square of the resistance set up, the square means multiplying the resistance 4 times. Makes perfect sense. Thus you see that as you send out good or evil, it will return to you 4-fold. You are standing forth as the Lord or law, giving forth good or God for evil. Yes, or evil. But even in this attitude, be truly humble, judge not. Place every bit of love you possess upon this pure white ray and see well to it that it is the pure love of God that you are generating and sending forth. As you accomplish this, legions are at your command. You are still meek and humble, willing to follow on with the light. It is the pure light of God that you follow. And that light is life, love, purity, and beauty, eternal and profound. There are 7 centers in your body that can be used as reflectors. You can cause these central points to glow with radiance far greater than any artificial light. And when you wish to send out this light, it glows with a greater potency and will reach farther than any electrical beam that can be projected. By setting all these centers aglow at the same time, you are completely surrounded by an armor that nothing can penetrate. You can send out the pure white ray of God, so energized that your body actually glows with a brilliancy far greater than that of the noonday sun. You stand forth the Lord of creation, the Lord of hosts. You stand forth true and triumphant and peaceful, loving, God enthroned in your body, and that body beautiful, spiritual, and divine. You become a unit, a self-contained unit at that point. As these vibrations came to us, the light emanating from the bodies of Jesus and his group was most difficult to behold, yet there was that vibrant brilliancy shining through which resembled liquid gold. To our vision, there seemed to be an indefiniteness, while to all the other senses, there was the solidity of rock. Again, the vibrations came. In this way, you can make your body completely invisible to mortal sight by focusing your entire thought fully and definitely upon the pure white ray, white God ray, and letting it go forth from the 7 centers as reflectors in unison. Then again, you can step right out on either of these rays and present any picture that you wish to those that would do you harm. You can follow on this beam with the exact speed of light and go where you will instantly. Your body is invisible to those who do not see through and beyond the mortal. They are aware that there is something they do not understand. Thus, they are not susceptible to any picture you wish to present to them. Thus, they are susceptible to any picture you wish to present them. That which they do not understand is mysterious or supernatural, and the faculty which is developed through suspicion or superstition is easily misled. Thus, you send out love to those that would do you harm, and the energy of release reflects back to them. The picture of harm they have sent out depicts the lower man of each one fighting that which they believe to be their enemy, when in reality they are fighting the picture of their own lower selves. These pictures change the closest friends into enemies and array brothers against brother. Should this band still persist and their threatened attack and raid, they will destroy each other. They now have the opportunity of leaving the district and its inhabitants unmolested, or they will return and destroy themselves. Man cannot attempt to destroy his brother without meeting the same fate for himself. We send only the pure white ray of God love to them, and if they resist that love with hate, malice, or revenge, they, of their own free will, turn that ray into a flame that will consume them. You need have no fear. You offer only love and have no power to compel them to accept. If the bandits come with love, there will be no conflict. Our cause is already won. At this juncture, a call came that there's a messenger approaching the village. We went out to meet him. He told us that the bandits had discontinued their raids and were peacefully encamped about 20 miles from the Tau Cross and had not harmed any of the inhabitants or their possessions since the appeal for help, but that they were holding the prisoners as hostages against further resistance. He also said there was a persistent rumor that the band would attack our village within the next day or two if the treasure was not delivered the following day. The messenger brought the greetings from the captive people. Every man had offered his life for the protection of the village. The messenger was told that this sacrifice would not be necessary and that he could return with thanks and deepest appreciation of the villagers for the proffered service. All right, let's do chapter 4. Since it doesn't, it looks pretty short, let's keep going. We resumed our work next morning with renewed zest, having banished all fear from our thoughts. On the morning of the second day, we were working on some of the figures carved in the rock of the canyon wall. Suddenly, our attention was drawn to the village sentry, whose position was across the canyon at a greater elevation, affording a much wider outlook. Through our field glasses, we saw him signal the village. Soon the villagers were hurrying to and fro, evidently seeking protection in the great gorges deeper in the mountain fastness. All the inhabitants were deeply agitated. As we listened, we could hear the low thundering roar of the advancing horde. One of our party climbed to a higher position and gave a broader view of the situation. He called back, stating that he could see the cloud of dust raised by the horsemen as they advanced towards the entrance of the canyon. We secreted our equipment in a nearby crevasse, joined our associate, and found shelter in the surrounding crags and rocks where we could observe the movements of the band. As they entered the canyon, the band halted. 50 horsemen rode forward as an advance guard. Then the whole band moved up the canyon, spurring and lashing their horses into a wild gallop. The clatter and the roar of the hoofs over the rocky floor, coupled with shouts of defiance, caused an indescribable din. Had it not been so tragic at the time, it would have been awe-inspiring to witness this great body of horsemen sweeping forward. Our position was very advantageous, as the canyon walls were nearly precipitous, so that we could look directly down upon the bandit horde as they swept on with the seemingly irresistible force of a great tidal wave. The advanced band of intruders had swept past our position, and those in the lead of the main band were fast approaching. We had turned our field glasses on the little village for the moment and observed that it was panic-stricken. I just call them binoculars, field glasses. One member of our party working on the ledge stopped work and was watching the advancing band. We saw him turn and look through the door leading to the entrance of the center room of the temple. Our field glasses were all centered upon the figure of Jesus as he advanced through the door and stepped upon the ledge, walking directly to the brink and standing for a moment with body magnificently poised. This ledge was about 800 feet above where we were concealed and nearly 3 miles distant. Instantly, we realized that he was speaking, and in another moment, the words came to us clear and distinct. Our associate on the ledge sat down and began taking notes in shorthand, which I did also. Later, comparison showed that we heard his words distinctly above the din of the advancing hordes. We were told that he did not raise his voice above his natural, well-modulated tones. So they were receiving that, and basically, through telepathy, I guess you could say. Yeah. As Jesus began speaking, a perfect calm came over the entire village and its inhabitants. These are his words, translated into English by Jesus himself. My most fervent prayer will always be that I shall never forget them, though I live to be 10,000 years. As I stand alone in your great silence, God, my Father, in the midst of me, there blazes a pure light, and it fills every atom of my whole being with its great radiance. Life, love, strength, purity, beauty, perfection stand forth in all dominion within me. As I gaze into the very heart of this light, I see another light, liquid, soft, golden white, and radiantly luminous, absorbing, mothering, and giving forth the caressing fire of the greater light. Now I know that I am God and one with God's whole universe. I whisper to God, my Father, and I am undisturbed. Still in the silence, yet in this complete silence, there exists God's greatest activity. Again, I am undisturbed, and complete silence is all about me. Now the radiance of this light spreads to God's vast universe, and everywhere I know there is God's conscious life. Again, I say fearlessly, I am God, I am silent and unafraid. I lift the Christ high within me and sing God's praise. In the tones of my music, inspiration hums. Louder and louder within me, the great mother sings of new life. Louder and clearer with each new day, inspiration is lifting my conscious thought until it is attuned to God's rhythm. Again, I lift the Christ high and give close ear that I may hear the glad music. My keynote is harmony, and the theme of my song is God, and God seals my song as truth. Behold, I am born anew, a Christ is here. I am free with the great light of your spirit. God, my Father, your seal is placed upon my forehead. I accept. I hold your light high. God, my Father, again, I accept. As Jesus seeks speaking, a dazzling ray of pure light shot out from the center of the solar part of his body. This beam of light extended down the canyon some distance to where the The gorge made an abrupt left turn just ahead of the place where the advanced group of horsemen were riding. At the point where this light beam terminated, a great barrier like a stone wall seemed to rise instantly, and great darts that appeared like flaming arrows shot from this barrier. The advancing horses stopped so suddenly in their mad forward dash that they unseated a number of their riders. Many of them paused for a moment with their heads and forefeet in the air, then turned and bolted down the canyon completely out of control. When they reached the advanced ranks of the main band, those riders had not been unseated, attempted to control their horses, but to no avail. These, as well as the rider of his horses, plunged on into the front ranks of the moving band. Here the movements of the front ranks were checked, while the ranks in the rear, not realizing their danger, came on and surged over those in advance until the canyon below us was a seething mass of men and horses. For an instant, all was a dead calm, save for the wild screams of frightened men and mad horses, where the wild stampede of the advance riders had clashed with the forward columns of the main band. There, a terrific scene was taking place. The riderless horses, entirely free from restraining hands, had plunged headlong into and over the advanced ranks, unseating many more men, and they, with their ungoverned mounts, added to the confusion. The horses began rearing, plunging, and screaming, as only dumb animals can in a moment of uncontrolled and violent fright. This mad melee was communicated through the massed horde in the canyon below us. Suddenly, we saw men draw their short swords and slash wildly in every direction. Others drew their firearms and began shooting at men and horses in an attempt to clear the way for an escape. It soon developed into a battle of the survival of the fit. It ended in a mad dash for liberty by those who were fortunate enough to escape the shambles, leaving the gorge cluttered with great heaps of dead and wounded men and horses. We hurried down to give what aid we could to the wounded. All of the inhabitants and our friends joined us. Messengers were sent out far and wide for assistance. We worked feverishly through the night until after sunup the next morning. As rapidly as we were to extricate the wounded ones from the terrible debris, Jesus and our friends would take them in hand. When the last man was cared for, we returned to the lodge for breakfast. Much to our surprise, as we entered, we found the Black Bandit talking to Emil. It was the first time that any of us conscious that Emil had been present, were conscious that he'd been present. He saw our look of wonderment and said, "That will keep until later." After the meal was finished, we walked outside with the chief, and he told us that Emil and himself had come upon the man seriously wounded and unable to move, as he was held down by his fallen horse. They had freed him and carried him to temporary shelter, where he was made as comfortable as possible. Then they had called our hostess and turned him over to her care. After his wounds were dressed, he asked if she would ask her God to show him what to do to be like her. He also asked her to teach him how to pray. She asked him if he wished to be whole and well, and he replied, "Yes, wholly like you." She answered, "Now that you have asked for wholeness, your prayer is answered. You are completely whole now." The man lapsed into a deep slumber. At midnight, when our chief made his rounds, he found that the wounds had completely closed and there was not a scar left. The man arose, dressed, and volunteered to assist in the rescue work. We also saw a great number that we thought were just slipping into the great shadow, restored completely. Some would cringe in terror at the approach of our friends, so much so that it became necessary to separate them from the others. After the rescue work was finished, the Black One, as we call him, went about among his wounded associates, doing all he could to alleviate their fears. Many seemed like animals caught in a trap, fearing that a terrible death by torture awaited them. because that was the sentence meted out to them through the law of that land, should a bandit be captured. So definitely had this belief become fixed in their minds that they never responded to the kindness bestowed upon them. They feared they were being nurtured back to health so that the torture would be of greater duration. Oh my. All were finally healed of their wounds, although a few lingered for months, evidently thinking they were delaying the day of torture. The Black One later organized all of the wounded who would join him into a protective unit against further raids, and also induced many of the inhabitants to join this unit. From that time on, we were later informed the bandit groups never again attempted to raid that district. Later, 2 of our expeditions passed through that territory on their way to the Gobi. This man with his followers conducted them safely through his own district and the adjoining district, a distance of over 400 miles, and neither he nor his followers would accept any compensation for that service. We've been told many times that he has become a great power for good throughout the district, giving his entire life freely to the people without remuneration. Oh, I am not familiar with that word. I mean, we can guess what it means, but I really don't know. So we're seeing some interesting stuff going on here. I think, we'll get back at it. If not tomorrow, Monday. Tomorrow's our treatise on white magic day that Tom and I usually do, but if maybe we'll try to get a couple chapters in tomorrow. All right. Have a good one.